A blackout doesn't warn you. It strikes with the precision of an ambush, silent, decisive, final. 1 second, your world is lit, structured, predictable. The next, every layer of security you depend on dissolves. Most families cling to the same comforting lie. This is temporary. They wait for the grid to recover, for officials to explain, for normalcy to return and tell them everything is under control. But you cannot afford that illusion. Not anymore. When the power dies, the environment shifts instantly. The air feels thicker. The silence lengthens. The night becomes a predator, and every sound you make becomes a signal. You are no longer living inside a home. You are sitting inside a target. And whether you survive depends on how fast you abandon your civilian mindset and enter a tactical one. Blackouts aren't about electricity. They're about vulnerability, about how quickly society fractures when its mechanisms fail. The pumps stop, the cameras go dark, the alarms go silent, the communication lines collapse. You think the threat is the darkness, but the real threat is the people who realize they can now act inside it without consequence. In the first minutes of a blackout, families split into two categories: the ones who freeze, wait, hope, and the ones who assess, fortify, reposition. You must belong to the second group. You must understand that safety is not something given to you. It is something you impose on the environment through discipline, preparation, and control. The blackout is not the danger. Your lack of readiness is, and this is where you eliminate it. You make your first mistake the moment the lights go out. You look at your phone, refresh the news, check the power company's website, and wait for an explanation. You expect officials to update you, guide you, protect you. But during a blackout, information is the first resource to die. And the longer you wait for someone else to tell you what to do, the more exposed your family becomes. A blackout is not a customer service issue. It's a tactical shift in the operational environment. The grid doesn't fail without consequences, and those consequences do not unfold slowly. Every minute you stand in the dark waiting for a press release, you are surrendering initiative to forces that don't wait. Desperation, panic, opportunism, exploitation. The moment communication drops, the hierarchy flips. There is no authority, no guidance, no guaranteed rescue, only people who react fast and people who react too late. Most civilians cling to the idea that officials will restore order, but officials are overwhelmed, blind, and slow. They aren't watching your perimeter. They aren't protecting your supplies. They aren't standing between your family and someone who sees your home as a resource. They deserve more than you. You must accept this truth. The government does not move at the speed of danger, and danger does not need permission to escalate. When you wait for instructions, you're signaling something fatal. You're unprepared. You're passive. You're predictable. The kind of household that sits still, lights candles, opens curtains, and trusts the system to save them. The kind of household that becomes a soft target long before the grid recovers. Your response must be immediate. You secure the entry points. You control the noise. You reduce your visibility. You establish internal communication. You position yourself where you can monitor without being seen. You act under the assumption that the blackout will not end soon, because that assumption keeps you alive even if you're wrong. Hesitation is exposure. Waiting is vulnerability. And trusting official updates is the fastest way to lose the advantage you didn't even realize you had. You do not wait for information. You create your own. You observe, evaluate, and escalate your readiness before anyone else even understands what's happening. In a blackout, Initiative is power, and power belongs to the one who acts first. Light is comfort to a civilian, but it is a beacon to a threat. The moment a blackout hits, every source of illumination becomes a message broadcast into the dark. It says, someone is home, someone is awake, someone has resources. And in a crisis, that message is worth more than electricity itself. Most families respond instinctively. They strike a match. They turn on a bright battery lamp. They use their phone flashlight as if the entire neighborhood isn't submerged in total darkness. They create contrast, and contrast is exactly what predators look for. In the absence of ambient light, even the smallest glow can be seen from hundreds of meters away. In a silent, power-starved environment, your light becomes the loudest noise imaginable. You must understand this. Visibility kills. A bright light doesn't just reveal your location. It reveals your habits, your movement patterns, your defensive weaknesses. A window illuminated from within turns your family into silhouettes, clear targets framed inside your own home. Anyone watching can determine how many people are inside, where they stand, how they move, and whether they appear capable of defending themselves. They don't need to force entry to gather intelligence. You hand it to them with every careless flicker. Light discipline is not optional. It is an operational necessity. You must control every lumen that escapes your perimeter. If you must use light, you use the lowest intensity option available, pointed toward the floor, shielded by your body or a barrier, never cast toward a window, door, or open line of sight. You keep illumination brief, purposeful, and silent. You train your family to navigate their own home in semi-darkness, because the less you reveal, the less you risk. The dark is not your enemy. It is your camouflage. It conceals your position, masks your numbers, and strips observers of context. You only lose that advantage when you betray yourself with careless glow. Predators exploit contrast. You remove the contrast. You are not trying to make your home comfortable. You are trying to make it invisible. And invisibility is the most effective armor you possess during the first hours of a blackout. Light belongs to the unprepared. Darkness belongs to the survivor. Movement inside a blackout is not freedom. It is exposure. Every step you take, every door you open, every shift in position becomes a piece of information offered to anyone listening, watching, or waiting for a mistake. Civilians move as if nothing has changed. They wander through their homes, open curtains, step onto porches, walk into hallways with full silhouettes. They believe darkness protects them. In reality, darkness punishes those who don't respect it. When the grid fails, your home transforms from a living space into a tactical zone. Movement without a plan becomes the fastest way to compromise that zone. Most families don't realize how predictable they are. They move along the same paths, bedroom to kitchen, living room to bathroom, never thinking that patterns can be tracked. Never thinking that sound carries further when the neighborhood is silent. Never thinking that stepping into an open doorway creates a perfect frame for anyone observing from outside. You must break the habit of casual movement. Every motion must be controlled, deliberate, silent. Before you move, you assess, you listen, you test the floor for creaks. You approach corners with reduced profile. You avoid passing in front of windows unless absolutely necessary. You understand angles, blind spots, and lines of sight. The civilian mindset says, "I'm just walking to the kitchen." The tactical mindset asks, "Who can see me if I do?" Outside movement is even more dangerous. The moment you cross your threshold, you surrender concealment. Darkness does not hide you when your silhouette is outlined against the faint glow of the sky or the reflective surfaces of surrounding structures. Any shift, any shadow, any crunch of gravel can betray your presence to someone who is desperate enough to let instinct override caution. You must establish internal rules. No unnecessary movement, no roaming, no exploration. Children especially must understand that stepping into the wrong line of sight at the wrong time can compromise the entire household. You maintain command presence. You move only with purpose. You reduce your physical signature the same way you reduce your visual and auditory signature. In a blackout, movement is not about getting from one room to another. It's about staying alive while doing so. Every step must justify its risk. Every route must be chosen with awareness. Every inch must be earned, not assumed safe. A home without electricity is not a familiar environment. It is terrain, and terrain favors the one who moves with discipline, not the one who moves with comfort. Silence becomes a weapon during a blackout, and most families surrender it without realizing the cost. They speak at normal volume. They open and close doors. They shuffle across floors. They cook, argue, drop objects. Let children cry unchecked. In daylight, those sounds disappear into the constant noise of civilization. But when the grid collapses, the world becomes acoustically naked. A whisper carries, a footstep echoes. A single metallic click can reveal your exact location to someone standing far beyond your line of sight. People underestimate how sound behaves when everything else goes quiet. In the absence of cars, HVAC systems, television hum, and city background noise, the night becomes a giant amplifier. Your home is no longer a sealed private box. It's an acoustic beacon. Every sound you generate leaks into the environment, travels through open air, down empty streets, across yards stripped of ambient masking. Anyone listening can establish patterns: movement, number of occupants, activity level, emotional state, and predators don't need to see you if they can hear you. Noise reveals confidence or lack of it. A house filled with loud conversation and casual footsteps screams one thing: unprepared civilians who believe they're still safe. The kind of household that stores supplies. The kind of household that hasn't hardened its mindset. The kind of household that won't resist. In crisis psychology, noise equals opportunity. Silence equals danger. You must ensure your home communicates the second, not the first. You need absolute sound discipline. Every door must be handled with controlled pressure. Every object set down gently. Every word spoken at the lowest possible volume. You avoid metal on metal. You pad surfaces where necessary. You brief your family that sound is not harmless. It's tactical exposure. Even routine tasks must be rethought. Cooking produces sound. Repositioning furniture produces sound. Moving through clutter produces sound. You eliminate unnecessary noise at the source, because once it escapes, you cannot retract it. Children are the biggest vulnerability, not out of fault, but out of instinct. They cry, they talk loudly, they ask questions, they move unpredictably. You must prepare them long before the blackout arrives. They need to understand that quiet is not a request. It is a survival rule. You cannot improvise this lesson under pressure. It must already be built into their behavior. In a silent neighborhood, one uncontrolled outburst can compromise your entire position. Noise does more than reveal your location. It announces your tempo. It tells outsiders whether you're calm or panicking, whether you're numerous or few, whether you're awake or sleeping. It paints a picture of your home in a stranger's mind. And once they have that picture, they can plan around it. Your goal is simple. Deny the world anything it can use against you. You don't just reduce noise, you erase it. Because in a blackout, silence isn't emptiness. Silence is dominance. Most families believe danger comes from outside. They watch the doors, they check the windows, they fear the silhouettes in the dark. But during a blackout, the most dangerous breach point isn't the front entrance. It's the lack of discipline inside the house. Internal OPSEC, operational security, is the shield that keeps your family from sabotaging itself. Lose it, and you lose control long before anyone attempts to enter your perimeter. Civilians assume information is harmless. They talk freely, move freely, share assumptions, argue, speculate. They discuss what they have, what they lack, what they fear. They tell their children everything will be fine. They reassure each other loudly. They make plans in the open. They operate as if nobody is listening. But someone could be, right outside the window, behind a fence, or passing by in total silence. Your family's words become intelligence, and intelligence in a crisis is currency more valuable than food or fuel. OPSEC begins with containment. You control what is said, who says it, and when. You do not allow casual conversations about supplies, vulnerabilities, or plans. You do not let your family speak near windows or thin walls. You do not assume privacy just because the house is dark. You understand that the thinner the barrier, the louder the secret. And crises make people desperate enough to exploit any detail they overhear. If someone learns you have water, batteries, medicine, or heat sources, you have already lost the element of denial, the most powerful deterrent you possess. Children become a critical variable. They don't understand secrecy. They don't understand stakes. They open doors without thinking. They respond to knocks. They call out to voices. They announce what the household has because honesty is natural to them. You cannot blame them for their nature, but you must train them against it. You teach them scripts. No opening doors, no answering questions, no revealing supplies, no reacting to noises outside. Their silence and obedience are not discipline. They are survival. And that training cannot begin in the moment of crisis. It must be installed long before the power dies. Adults make their own mistakes. One member reassures a neighbor through the door. Another speaks too loudly while organizing supplies. Someone turns on a phone screen near a window, revealing silhouette and movement. Someone absent-mindedly mentions having extra food or tools. A single slip destroys the structure you are trying to build. Internal OPSEC requires unity, and unity requires clear command. You are not running a household. You are commanding a unit, and a unit follows protocol. Your home needs rules, strict, unbreakable, unquestioned. No unnecessary light. No loud conversations. No revealing information to anyone outside. No negotiations through doors. No opening entry points without an established signal. Every family member must understand that crisis changes the rules of interaction. Friend, neighbor, or stranger, no one outside the perimeter needs to know what happens inside. Loose information is a beacon. Controlled information is a shield. During a blackout, you cannot afford internal chaos. You cannot afford improvisation. You cannot afford trust without verification. You protect your home by controlling the narrative inside it. Because once information escapes the walls, everything else will follow. The greatest mistake families make during a blackout is assuming people remain the same when the lights go out. They don't. Darkness strips away the last restraints of civilization. It rewires priorities. It pushes fear into the bloodstream and pulls morality out of the equation. The neighbor who waves at you every morning becomes a stranger defined by hunger, uncertainty, and instinct. And instinct does not negotiate. It takes. Humans are the primary threat in any long-duration blackout because humans collapse faster than infrastructure. The grid may fail in seconds, but a person's stability can fail in minutes. The moment they realize no one is watching, no alarms are working, and no authority is responding, their behavior begins to drift. They stop thinking in terms of community and start thinking in terms of survival. And survival, when desperation escalates, makes people justify actions they never imagined themselves capable of. Most civilians cling to the comforting illusion that their neighborhood will unite, cooperate, or get through it together. But cooperation requires trust, and trust requires stability. A blackout removes both. Without information, fear grows. Without resources, tension grows. Without consequences, temptation grows. What you see next is not the community you know. It is a hierarchy of need, and the people at the bottom of that hierarchy will do anything to climb upward. Some will approach your home with friendliness, asking questions, seeking reassurance. They want to know if you have food, power banks, candles, generators, water, tools. They will seem harmless, but questions are reconnaissance. They gather intel because they're unsure what happens next. And when uncertainty turns into hunger or panic, they remember exactly who told them what. Others won't ask. They will watch. They will stay silent, observing movement, listening for noise, searching for signs of supply. A lit room, a boiling pot, a conversation near a window, these become signals to those who have already shifted into acquisition mode. A predator in a blackout doesn't look like a monster. It looks like a normal person who has run out of options. Desperation erases hesitation. You must never underestimate how fast a human threat can evolve. A blackout compresses pressure on every individual simultaneously. Food begins to spoil. Water becomes uncertain. Medication schedules break. Phones die, removing the last illusion of control. People who were stable become unstable. People who were passive become opportunistic. People who were kind become unpredictable. This is not about evil. It is about human thresholds. And a blackout pushes everyone toward theirs. Your duty is not to judge others. Your duty is to predict them. You must assume that anyone outside your perimeter may shift from harmless to dangerous without warning. You must remove blind trust from your operational mindset. You communicate with distance, with barriers, with caution. You keep your home anonymous. You keep your resources invisible. You refuse every invitation to reveal your status. In a blackout, the threat is not the dark. The threat is what the dark allows people to become. You survive by accepting that reality before anyone else does, because the moment you underestimate another human being is the moment you give them the advantage you can never reclaim. When the grid collapses, most families fixate on fear of the dark or fear of intruders. But the quiet killers during any extended blackout are far more subtle. Temperature, water, and air quality. They do not announce themselves. They do not knock on your door. They infiltrate your home slowly, silently, relentlessly. And if you ignore them, they will dismantle your family from the inside long before any external threat arrives. Heat is the most underestimated danger. In cold environments, the temperature inside a house can drop faster than people expect, floor by floor, hour by hour, until the air becomes a slow-moving threat that drains strength with every breath. Civilians react instinctively by lighting candles, running makeshift heaters, or using flame-based tools inside sealed rooms. They believe warmth is the priority. They forget that oxygen is the real currency. A single flame inside poor ventilation consumes the same oxygen your family depends on. And where oxygen disappears, carbon monoxide begins to rise, colorless, silent, odorless, a gas that kills without warning and without mercy. You do not get dizzy first. You do not get headaches. You simply lose the ability to wake up. Heat discipline is more than staying warm. It is staying alive while doing so. You do not burn anything indoors unless you understand combustion, airflow, ventilation patterns, and exit routes. You do not trap your family in a sealed room with an open flame. You do not create a comfort zone that becomes a death trap. Cold won't kill you quickly. CO will, and it will do it faster than any intruder ever could. But blackouts don't only punish the cold. In hot climates, heat becomes a slow suffocation. Air grows stagnant. Humidity climbs. Sweat evaporates too slowly. Your body loses minerals even when you're not moving. Rooms become ovens. Children and elderly collapse first. You must control airflow not for comfort, but for survival. You create cross-ventilation. You position family members in lower temperature zones. You stagger movement to reduce heat stress. You treat every degree of temperature as a tactical factor, not an inconvenience. Then comes water, the single most critical element your family will lose long before food. Civilians assume water will remain accessible because taps still look functional. But water systems depend on pumps, pressure, and chemical treatment. When the grid goes down, the pumps begin to fail. Then the pressure drops. Then the contamination rises. Within hours, the water in your pipes becomes unreliable. Within days, it becomes unsafe. And without planning, your family begins rationing too late, drinking too quickly, or consuming water you cannot verify. Dehydration during a blackout is rarely dramatic. It is silent and cumulative. It weakens judgment first, then coordination, then the immune system. It makes people irritable, slow, careless. You lose operational discipline without realizing the cause. And once the body crosses a certain threshold, recovery becomes almost impossible without medical support, a resource that will not exist when the grid is down. Your objective is not simply to store water, it is to control water. You assign precise intake limits. You identify contamination risks. You know how to filter, boil, and cool without wasting fuel or creating steam signatures that reveal activity. You treat every drop as a strategic asset. And finally, air, the one resource civilians forget entirely. In a blackout, airflow deteriorates quickly. Houses that once ventilated naturally become sealed boxes of expired air. Cooking indoors creates particulates. Makeshift heating creates toxins. Even overcrowding a single room reduces oxygen faster than you expect. Families close doorways for warmth, unaware they're suffocating themselves inch by inch. You must treat air like terrain. You manage it. You open what needs to be opened and seal what must remain sealed. You never operate in enclosed spaces without understanding how the room breathes. You do not sleep where airflow stagnates. And you always assume the air is degrading unless you can confirm otherwise. Blackouts don't kill through chaos alone. They kill through physics, chemistry, and biology. Through the vulnerabilities people forget they have. Through the systems they never learned to manage. Heat, water, air. These are not background factors. They are the invisible front line of survival. And if you don't control them, they will control you, absolutely, silently, and without a second chance. A blackout is not an event. It is a filter. It strips away illusion, reveals weakness, and exposes the gap between those who wait for safety and those who create it. Everything you've learned about silence, movement, light, information, human behavior, and environmental threats comes down to one final transformation. You are no longer a passive occupant of a home. You are the operator responsible for the survival of everyone inside it, and operators do not hope. Operators act. The blackout survival protocol begins with mindset. You eliminate denial. You accept that no one is coming to save you, that the world beyond your walls no longer operates under rules you recognize. When electricity fails, social contracts fail with it. You counter that collapse with discipline. You do not panic. You do not rush. You do not surrender control of your space. Every decision you make is deliberate, calculated, stripped of emotion. Emotion clouds judgment. Judgment keeps people alive. You establish your perimeter, not with barricades, but with awareness. You know every angle of your home, its weak points, its blind spots, its sound traps, its natural choke points. You decide how your family moves, where they speak, where they sleep, where they gather. You dictate the layout, because layout determines survivability. You reduce your profile until your home becomes one more shadow in a city full of silent structures. You deny outsiders every hint of activity. No visible light, no obvious movement, no careless signatures. Next comes internal order. You convert your family from civilians to a coordinated unit with clear roles, expectations, and limits. You build habits that function under pressure. No opening doors without protocol. No speaking near windows. No revealing supplies. No improvisation. You reinforce these rules not through fear, but through clarity. Fear is unpredictable. Clarity is reliable. You remove uncertainty inside the home so you can respond to uncertainty outside it. Then you stabilize the essentials: heat, water, air. You manage them the same way you manage threats. You ration with precision. You ventilate with intent. You heat with caution. You remove every silent danger before it becomes a silent killer. These systems are not conveniences. They are life support. When the grid collapses, you become the grid. Every breath your family takes depends on your ability to control their environment. Finally, you maintain your posture. A blackout is a waiting game, but waiting does not mean being idle. You observe without revealing yourself. You listen without responding. You gather information through behavior, not broadcasts. You stay adaptable because crises evolve faster than people expect. You don't cling to a single plan. You master the ability to pivot the moment the environment shifts. The protocol is not about surviving the night. It's about surviving the unknown number of nights that follow. It's about building a mindset that carries your family through the darkness without losing cohesion, safety, or control. You turn your home into a fortress not through walls, but through discipline. You turn yourself into a shield not through force, but through awareness. The blackout tests everyone. Most fail because they wait for the world to fix itself. You will not wait. You will not hope. You will not expose your family to chance. You will operate. You will adapt. You will endure. And when the lights eventually return, your family will still be standing because you never relied on them in the first place.